Super Typhoon Bobby made landfall Monday over a tiny U.S. territorial island in the western Pacific near Guam, bringing powerful winds and torrential rain to the Northern Mariana Islands. The eye of the storm passed over the island of Rota on Monday morning local time, bringing winds of more than 150 miles per hour, according to the National Weather Service. It was traveling at around 9 miles per hour west toward the Philippines, the Weather Service said. Hang tight, National Weather Service meteorologist Brandon Aidlet said. We're coming just out of the peak of conditions. It's going to be a slow improvement, but improvement is coming. The storm affected other parts of the Northern Mariana Islands, a U.S. territory, as well as Guam. The area was still recovering from another destructive cyclone that struck in April. On the island of Saipan, the international airport recorded wind gusts of more than 100 miles per hour, the Weather Service said. Many people living in Saipan and nearby Tinian had been without power since Super Typhoon Sinlaku, the agency said. Bavi was a Category 5 super typhoon, with winds that could reach 180 miles per hour and gusts of 215 miles per hour, said Weather Service meteorologist Edwin Montvila. In addition to Rota, typhoon, and flash flood warnings were in effect for Guam, Tinian, and Saipan, while tropical storm warnings and watches were in place for other islands in the area. The Weather Service said the storm could bring a total of at least 20 inches of rain by the time it passes through the region. A cyclone becomes a super typhoon when it has maximum sustained winds of 150 miles per hour or stronger. That's equivalent to a high-end Category 4 or a Category 5 storm. Bavi posed an imminent danger to life, Montvila said, with the Weather Service telling residents across the islands to move to interior rooms and stay away from windows. Entering outside can result in death from flying projectiles. Utility poles and associated power lines will be down, Montvila said. Bavi passed through the region at a faster pace than Sinlaku, the Weather Service said. But because of the size of the storm, the islands could still face tropical storm conditions, including torrential rains, through at least Monday night. Guam Governor Lou Leon Guerrero urged people to stay home or at a shelter. Here we are experiencing another severe force of winds on our island, but as we know, we are always ready and prepared in our planning and our protection of our people, she said in a video posted on social media Sunday. The Reverend Francis Hezel, a priest at Santa Barbara Catholic Church in Dededo, Guam, heard winds howling outside his house for hours since waking up before dawn. He said he hoped the typhoon would not cause widespread damage on the island because most residents live in concrete homes. By this time, people are used to typhoons, he said. They know what they have to do to prepare for them. Super Typhoon Bavi has carved a path of historic devastation through the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, CNMI, and Guam, assaulting the U.S. Pacific territories with the maximum fury of a Category 5 equivalent storm, packing sustained winds of 240 to 280 kilometers per hour, 150 to 175 miles per hour, and driving an apocalyptic wall of seawater inland. The storm has completely rewritten the disaster baseline for these remote communities. The eye wall directly tore through the island of Rota, unleashing an unrelenting, multi-hour bombardment of kinetic wind energy and catastrophic storm surges. Initial reports from local emergency management agencies paint a grim picture of widespread systemic failure across all critical sectors. Heavy reinforced concrete buildings suffered structural stress, while lighter wood frame and semi-permanent homes were completely obliterated or stripped to their foundations. Unprecedented ocean surges and massive wave run-ups over 15 meters, 50 feet high, have physically recontoured coastal coastlines, undermined major highways, and flooded lowland towns. As local civil defense forces and federal responders begin to mobilize, authorities warn that the dual impact of maximum tier winds and destructive coastal inundation has left the region facing a protracted multi-year recovery timeline. Super Typhoon Bobby reached its terrifying Category 5 strength over the exceptionally deep, warm waters of the Western Pacific. A combination of optimal sea surface temperatures and near-zero vertical wind shear turned the system into a thermodynamic monster. Coastlines facing the eastern and southern quadrants experienced storm surge heights between 4 to 6 meters, 13 to 20 feet, above normal tide levels. Satellite altimetry and marine buoys captured open ocean waves measuring up to 15 meters, 50 feet, near the storm core. Up to 50 centimeters, 20 inches, of rain, compounding coastal ocean flooding with immediate upland flash floods. The immense physical size of Bavi's wind field meant that its storm surge was not a brief wave, but rather a prolonged, high-velocity rise in sea level that pushed deep into river channels, drainage basins, and low-lying residential sectors. As the exact center of Super Typhoon Bavi crossed Rota, the island was subjected to the maximum combined forces of the storm's eye wall. The storm surge breached reef barriers, driving massive coral boulders, sand, and maritime debris hundreds of meters inland. Coastal roads were completely washed out, effectively cutting off peripheral villages from the island's central command post. Rota's dense, tropical vegetation was completely stripped of leaves and branches. Whole forests of coconut palms and ironwood trees were snapped like matchsticks, leaving an eerie, barren landscape. The local hospital and government buildings suffered extensive window blowouts, roof failures, and subsequent water damage. Private residences, particularly those in exposed coastal plains, were reduced to splintered debris fields. Located just north of the direct eye path, Saipan and Tinian were severely battered by Bavi's extraordinarily violent northeastern quadrant, where the strongest winds and highest storm surges typically concentrate. 100% of Saipan's electrical distribution network is offline. Massive steel, high-voltage transmission towers were bent flat, while thousands of wooden and concrete utility poles were snapped in chain reaction collapses. At the port of Saipan, the immense storm surge lifted docked vessels over retaining bulkheads, depositing them onto concrete piers. Inter-island cargo facilities suffered severe structural damage, halting the immediate delivery of commercial goods. Because the entire electrical grid failed, municipal water wells and treatment facilities lost all pumping capacity. This immediately triggered a secondary humanitarian crisis regarding potable water scarcity. Guam, the heavily populated southern bastion of the Marianas, experienced full-scale hurricane conditions that overwhelmed coastal defenses and urban drainage networks. Coastal towns and low-lying inland areas such as Yigo, Dededo, and Tamuning were hit with a double calamity. The 50-centimeter rainfall deluge could not drain into the sea because a massive storm surge was simultaneously pushing seawater up through the drainage outlets. This created vast, deep lakes of contaminated water inside residential neighborhoods, forcing dramatic high-water rescues. Apra Harbor saw multiple commercial and recreational vessels break their moorings, resulting in groundings and sinkings. Severe wave action completely undermined portions of Route 1, Marine Corps Drive, causing asphalt sections to collapse directly into the sea. The sheer breadth of the destruction requires analyzing the damage through distinct infrastructure, utility, and environmental vectors. The violent 15-meter wave action shattered shallow water coral reef systems, which serve as the island's natural barriers against storm surges. This degradation leaves the coastline significantly more vulnerable to future tropical systems. Millions of tons of sand were violently displaced from tourist beaches, altering coastal ecosystems and threatening nesting grounds for endangered sea turtles. The powerful marine surge forced salt water deep into coastal freshwater aquifers and agricultural soils, destroying local crops and threatening long-term groundwater viability. Tens of thousands of residents across Guam and the CNMI are grappling with the reality of uninhabitable homes. Emergency shelters opened by local governments and non-profit organizations are operating at absolute capacity. Managing these spaces presents logistical challenges, including ensuring food safety, providing basic hygiene facilities, maintaining medical care for vulnerable individuals, and addressing the mental health toll of the disaster. The tourism industry, which drives the local economies of Saipan and Guam, has collapsed overnight. Major resort hotels along the coastlines experienced extensive storm surge inundation on their ground floors, broken facades, and ruined critical electrical infrastructure. It will take months before commercial flights can bring visitors back to the islands. Local retail, grocery, and service businesses lack the financial reserves to survive weeks without electricity, leading to fears of permanent closures and spikes in local unemployment. Commercial crop farms and local subsistence farming plots were entirely wiped out by the combination of wind damage and saltwater surge flooding. This has created an immediate dependency on expensive, imported food shipments. An emergency of this scale has triggered an expansive, synchronized response involving local territorial governments, federal agencies, and international monitoring networks. To protect lives from dangling live wires, unstable structures, and debris-choked roads, strict public curfews have been enacted across Guam, Rota, and Saipan. This allows heavy civil engineering equipment to operate unimpeded. Territorial police, fire, and National Guard units are working around the clock to clear initial pathways to isolated communities and conduct secondary search and rescue sweeps. Because Guam and the CNMI are U.S. territories, a full federal disaster response mechanism has been activated. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is airlifting and shipping millions of liters of bottled water, ready-to-eat meals, MREs, heavy industrial generators, and temporary roofing materials, blue tarps. Joint Region Marianas and U.S. military assets stationed in the region are heavily engaged. Navy vessels are being prepared to conduct underwater surveys of seaports to ensure safe docking, while military transport aircraft utilize cleared runways to drop off essential supplies. The massive storm is being monitored very closely by neighboring Asian nations. The Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration, PAGASA, has tracked the typhoon's outer parameters as it moves into its area of responsibility, PAR, assigning it the local name Inde. PAGASA warned that even though the storm center remains offshore from the Philippines, its massive circulation is actively enhancing the southwest monsoon, Habagat, driving torrential rains and dangerous marine conditions across Luzon and the Visayas. Super Typhoon Bavi shows no signs of dissolving or undergoing rapid structural weakening as it exits the Mariana Islands and moves west-northwest across the warm Philippine Sea. The typhoon continues to exhibit a perfectly symmetrical eye structure surrounded by a towering, hyper-dense ring of deep convective thunderstorms. Meteorological models indicate that Bavi remains a system of catastrophic potential. The consensus long-range track puts the storm on a direct collision course with the waters situated between Taiwan and the eastern coast of mainland China. Authorities in major coastal provinces like Zhejiang and Fujian, alongside municipal leaders in northern Taiwan, have declared elevated states of emergency. Commercial shipping lanes are being redirected. Thousands of deep-sea fishing fleets are being ordered back to port, and coastal levee systems are being reinforced as East Asia braces for what could be one of the most powerful mainland landfall events of the decade.